Long before I met Bhagavan, when I was a girl in my teens, I had this idea that such a being existed somewhere, and I was closely connected with him, and I began to live for him. I thought I would come upon him one day, and without my own knowledge, I was searching for him. It began to take a very tangible shape just 4 years before I met Bhagavan. I took initiation from Ramakrishna Math, from Swami Vireshwarananda, who was a direct disciple of Shardamani Devi. I was very fortunate because he was already 94 or something, and he was the only one of that generation still alive, and I was I consider myself very fortunate to have taken the initiation from him. But unfortunately, 3 months after the initiation, he attained Samadhi, which left a vacuum in me. And then there was a very serious search for the Guru began, and for 4 years, I was going up to the Himalayas every year during summer holidays because I was working as a professor in a college, and we would get summer holidays. And I'd be out traveling here and there, and wherever I came to hear about a great soul, a Mahatma, I would immediately rush there, sit at his feet, and try to feel that if this was the one for me. And I met great souls, Mahatmas of different traditions. But nothing really happened to my mind. What they say, it did not click with anyone, though of course they were all great people in their own right. And then what happened, though I was still very closely connected with Ramakrishna Math, I began to read Ramana literature, and I was quite drawn to Ramana, his personality as well as his teachings. And so this desire to come to Tiruvannamalai, to Ramanashram, was becoming strong in me. And at that time we had Christmas holidays, 3 days, and I planned to come here with 2 other friends. When the 3 of us landed in Tiruvannamalai at the gate of Ramanashram, it was about 7:30 in the evening, and in those days there was only one small lamp burning outside Ramanashram, but that particular day even that was out. Even the whole of Ramanashram was in darkness, and I felt horrified, because here I was coming to the sun of knowledge, begging for light, but all I could see was darkness around, and I felt terrible about it. And then I ran inside Ramanashram, went straight to the meditation hall, and there was a small lamp that was burning in front of Ramana's picture there, and I burst out crying. Saying to Ramana, Ramana, even here there's only darkness for me. Will there be no light in my life? And as I was crying out from the depths of my soul, from the photograph, suddenly the 2 eyes came alive. Just the 2 eyes alone came alive, and they looked into my naked soul with such penetrating gaze, pouring light, and I felt so reassured and blissful. And then the lights came on, and it was once again the photograph of Ramana. Minutes before, it was 2 live eyes looking straight into my soul with such compassion and wisdom. And now it was only a photograph. But I felt so reassured and happy and blissful. I came out of Ramanashram with such sense of fulfillment, so to say. And then the next day I heard about Yogi Ramsuratkumar, and my friend was telling me that she had been to him He was a great, great master, and then she would take me to him. So this journey started, this personal journey in search of Yogi Ramsuratkumar started. The whole of next day, we would buy something like tender coconut, go to the house of Yogi Ramsuratkumar, but the house would be locked. And if we asked people around, they would say, oh, he had just gone to the temple. Then we would rush to the temple in search of him, and there people would say he had just gone to the house. So this Leela was going on the whole of next day. And then again the next day, the second day also, we did the same thing. We would start for a parikrama around the mountain, and then as we approached Bhagavan's house, he wouldn't be there, it was locked. And then people would say he had gone here, there, and then wherever we went, he wouldn't be there. He would have just left the place. So this play of house, hide and seek went on the whole of next day also. And again the third day morning, we wouldn't give up easily, so we again felt that we should see, and all the three of us started. And again, that ended up in vain. So my friends, the two of them who came with me, they got tired, fed up with that, and they gave up. But I insisted on going again the evening and try our luck. So all the three of us started, where we went to the fruit vendor's shop, and I said we would buy something, because in India they say that when you go to see a child or an old man or a great master, you should take something to them. So I insisted on buying some apples, but the other two backed out, saying that, oh, every day we would buy something, and finally we ended up eating, and so we won't buy anything. So I bought 4 apples, and then all the three of us came to Bhagavan's doorstep. But this time, the gates were open. You see, that was the only evening left for us. The next day, early morning, we were going to leave. And I had no idea when I would be back. So it was out of great compassion of Yogi Ramsuratkumar, that particular time when we went there, the door was open and there was already a crowd around, outside his gate. And then the wooden door, the inside wooden door opened, and then somebody came out. I did not quite look at the details of Bhagavan's appearance, though vaguely it registered that he had a very dirty dhoti and unkempt hair, and there was a carelessly thrown green turban and eyes. He looked like a beggar, that he always referred to himself as. But that day, as he was coming, the vibration started, and my whole being was reacting to his presence. I did not even look at him properly, but the very presence of his did something to me, and I was trembling. The whole body started trembling. The tears were streaming down, and in the depths of my being, something stirred, as though it was this moment I had always waited for. For how many births, how many years, I had no idea, but I knew this was the moment, and I was reacting to the whole huge presence of Yogi Ramsuratkumar there. And then Yogiji, for all appearances, he was blessing somebody, saying Ram Ram, and my father blesses you, this and that, and he would pat somebody at the back, and he was dismissing them quickly. Finally, only the three of us were left, and my friend was nudging me, saying, look, this is our turn, he's going to ask us to go away any moment. But then I was in no position to listen to her. I was just gaping at him with streaming tears and the whole being reacting to his presence. Yogi Ramsuratkumar gave a very swift look to each of us, and then he walked into the veranda saying, come in. So all the three of us walked. We went into the veranda, and my hands were trembling so much I dropped all the apples. The apples were running in all directions, so they were rolling in all directions. I was so clumsy. Yogiji seemed to get irritated and said, pick up all this. He almost shouted. And very clumsily I picked up all the 4 of them. And then we were thinking, we prostrated before him hastily, thinking that he was going to ask us to get out any moment. But instead, the wonder of wonders, he opened the wooden door and said, "Come in." So we walked in and he showed us a particular place, made us sit there in a line. And when I went inside, what met my eye was something I had never even imagined before. There was so much of dust on the floor, torn mats, and heaps of clothes, dirty clothes, books scattered, and then odd items, odd bits of offerings, all scattered, and above all, his photograph, one particular photograph, his, and the same photograph, 17 of them hanging on the wall, next to each other. I had never seen ordinary man or a great master hang 17 photographs of themselves. This was very strange to me, but I was so fascinated with what met my eye, and the mind was only a little on all these things, but the rest of my mind was following his presence. So we went and sat there, and then Yogi Ramsuratkumar asked our names. And in the meantime, one particular item registered in my mind. There was a chair. And the chair seemed old and wobbly. That I even wondered, there was a passing thought, how could anybody sit in this chair? But strangely, Yogi Ramsuratkumar brought that particular chair in front of me and sat very comfortably. It looked like a throne, an emperor seated on the throne, the same chair. And after seating himself comfortably in the chair, he began to ask each one of us, "What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?" When he put the question directly to me, I blurted out. I had no idea what I was going to say. It just came to me spontaneously from the depths. I want to see God. When I said that, the minute I said that, he went into roaring laughter. He said, "What? You want to see God? Oh God. Oh, she wants to see God. Oh God." And then he would go into roaring laughter. And then what was more, he would ask me again, and then he would go into laughter. And what was more, there were 3 other people seated, and he would ask every one of them, he would call them by name. He would say, "Ganeshanji, did you hear what she said? She wants to see God. Oh God. Even this beggar has not seen God, and she wants to see God. Ha 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 ha." Like, he would laugh and laugh and laugh. So until then I was crying quietly. But now, after seeing him explicitly making fun of me, I felt I had committed the worst blunder of my life. Probably I had no qualification even to mention such a thing to a great master. So you see, it became a loud sob. And then, his face softened a little. And then he began to say, "This beggar has not seen God. This beggar has not seen God. But Devaki will see God. Devaki is a pure soul. She will see God. But this beggar has not seen God. She wants to see God. Oh God, she wants to see God. But she will see God. She is a pure soul. But this beggar has not seen God." This Leela was going on and on and on and on again. And suddenly, the friend of mine who was seated next to me was inspired to say, "Swami, we do not know whether we are pure or impure. Now that you have said it, she has become pure from this moment." What a beautiful reply. It would never have struck me to say that, but she did. And that reply changed the whole Leela, the whole attitude of Bhagavan, because as soon as he heard, his expression changed. His laughter stopped. And he, with a great hunkar, he said, And then he raised his hand, his face radiant, red and radiant. He raised his hand and he was blessing like this. He looked straight into my eyes and he began to bless. I don't know how many minutes passed, probably ages. I had no idea, but something like electricity, something passed through me. The other two friends also felt something. And after that, all thoughts stopped. All thoughts cleared out. There was a deep, deep, deep peace filling every pore of my body. There was a blissful sweetness and peace. And I had no idea, no sense of time or space. The only thought that came to my mind, I still remember, is if there is a God, He is sitting before me. This is the one, this is the one. And as suddenly, see, it was very typical of Bhagavan. He could change expressions, totally from one to the other. So even as he was blessing me so intensely, as suddenly he brought his hand down and the mood changed, and then he began to slap his thigh once again, started to laugh. It was like the peals of laughter, like the bell. But this time, when again he started joking, you see, she wants to see God. This beggar has not seen God. But she will see God. She is a pure soul. This beggar has not seen God. He started the Leela again. But this time, there was no response from me. I was already full of bliss and peace. Everything became a mere detail to me. And I was just watching him, fascinated by his face, his Leela, everything. But there was no reaction from me. As though that the longing that I had felt for the past 4 years, all that had come to a beautiful end, and what remained was he alone. The bliss, the ananda, the peace that he verily is. So, after some time, then he just got up. There was a heap of bottles of different shapes and sizes. He picked up one of them. And when he went to pick up, suddenly I saw the 17 photos hanging there, and I felt a deep desire to have one of them. I told my friend, look, can I ask for one? She said, no, you don't say anything, because he would ask us to get out. If it is impertinence, he would ask us to get out, so better not say anything. So I kept quiet. Then he went and he brought a bottle of candy, sugar candy, and then he opened it. He asked the three of us to get up, and then he took out one sugar candy. He held it in hand, looked at each of us, smiled. Then all the three of us, hopefully, eagerly stretched our hands for that. Then again he looked at each of us and smiled mischievously, and he put the sugar candy into his own mouth and laughed. We felt very stupid. And then again he put his hand inside, he took out another one, but this time we were not going to be stupid, so we just put our hands down and looked straight without any expression, just waiting to see what is going to happen. But this time, he looked at me and smiled straight and said, like this. So I stretched my hand. He really put the sugar candy into me, and he made a gesture, eat. So I immediately put it into my mouth. Then the other two friends became alert. Then they also stretched their hand. He just looked at each of them and smiled and said, no. And he closed the bottle, went back and put it there. And then he said, this beggar is going to leave you now. He began to walk in the front, and then the three of us trooped behind him. And just when he was about to cross the threshold, I noticed a stack of papers. He twirled and looked at me and said, do you know this beggar's name? You see, just before he asked me, I had this thought, my God, I have come here and I have seen my God and I am leaving without his photograph. So as soon as this thought came, he was walking in the front and he suddenly twirled and faced me now and he said, "Do you know this beggar's name?" I said something like Ramsurat Maharaj because I didn't really know his name. He said, "No, no, no, that is not this beggar's name. You wait." And then he pulled out a sheet from the stack of papers. And that is the same photograph which I wanted all along but had no courage to say it. Then he said, "You see what is written under there?" It was written Yogi Ramsuratkumar, the Godchild. He said, "You read again, Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Read again, Yogi Ramsuratkumar." So he made me read his name 3 times and then he said, "You keep this photo." So what I wanted but could not bring myself to say, he gave me without my having to say. Now the 2 friends, again they woke up and they said, "Swami, we also want." No, that's not for the 2 of you. And then he took the 4 apples, the bundle of the 4 apples, and then he said, "One for you, one for you, one for you, and one for this beggar." And then he walked out in the front and then he left us outside, and after we came out, very carefully closed the door so that we wouldn't come back and trouble him again. But I could tell you the one who went inside was not the same as the one who came out. Everything had changed for me. I was like a zombie, I was in some kind of euphoria. And I had no idea, I had no reaction to anything. There was a very blissful sweetness. And so I just carefully brought that sheet, his photograph. And the next day, early morning, we were standing opposite Ramanashram in that small, the low watt burning light. And something strange happened again. When I was standing there with the friends, opposite was, next to Ramanashram, was a dilapidated Dakshinamurti temple. In those days, even the Murti was broken. And it used to be very dark, and all those beggars would take refuge there. People would be afraid to go in. So when we were standing at 5 o'clock in the morning, there was darkness everywhere except for one single light at a distance. Suddenly, a man came out. He had ruffled hair and he was wearing only a loincloth. He was dark and he came charging at me. He came straight to us. The 2 friends who were with me were frightened and they ran inside the tea stall behind. Whereas nothing really, no reaction came out of me, and I was just standing there transfixed, looking at him, watching him merely as a detail. And that man came straight, and 3 feet, 4 feet away he stopped dead, and then he went round me and ran back into the temple. I thought it was a very strange, mystic experience. And I felt that Tiruvannamalai had cast a noose around me. But then I did not give any depth to the thought because the mind was so much above all that. But later it assumed such significance to me. It was as though Tiruvannamalai really cast a noose around me. So you see, after this experience, I was back in Salem, in the college, but the euphoria continued. And, there was no thought, and I wouldn't be able to communicate with anybody, and I would be just sitting in the chair in the department. But one thing is, all my faculties had sharpened. I was teaching the MSc students tough subjects like quantum mechanics and mathematical physics. And before I came to Bhagavan, I had to prepare for 2 hours, 2.5 hours for one single class. But after I came back, I would just gallop through the same portion for half an hour, and when I went to the class, I would take up some problem and start writing on the board. And it was as though someone else was doing it, and the whole problem would work itself out to a perfect answer. It was as though somebody was doing it and I was a mere witness to it. Very strange experience, but this continued. And if there was some work, and because of my state of mind, if I had forgotten, if it had slipped out of my mind, somebody would come and knock at the door and then remind me, make me do it, or they would do it themselves. All strange experiences were happening, but unfortunately, after a few days, the experience began to fade. And slowly, all the defects of my old self began to return. And that's when I understood that I had gone through some experience induced by Swami's presence. Because when it lasted, it was most natural. I was not even aware that I was experiencing something very different from the normal. But after this began to fade, I understood the significance of this. And after that, I became like a calf running to its mother cow. I just could not keep myself away from Swami after that. I had to come to Tiruvannamalai. I had to come for his darshan. I had to stand outside. Even if he told me 100 times, get out, don't come here, don't make a nuisance of yourself, I had to come the very next day. I could not help it. It was merely happening